What feasibly and reasonably would qualify as hate speech? And where do we draw the line? That's the great dilemma, isn't it? You know, I have my YouTube channel set to I don't know what the setting's called. It's approval settings, whatever. So every comment that comes onto my channel, it doesn't go immediately. Lots of you would have noticed that. Depending on when I can get to it. If you're over in another part of the world and I'm in bed, you won't see your comment there for, several hours or maybe even half a day. And you may think that's somewhat inconvenient, and it may confuse you, thinking like I've deleted the comment or YouTube's deleted the comment, because we won't know. But I have that setting to keep idiots at bay, because when you have a YouTube channel, you always get trolls, and I welcome conflict on my channel, intelligent conflict, but invariably you just get the haters who aren't intelligent. And then you get some who are pseudo-intellectuals that think they're super intelligent and they can look into my soul and spirit and psychology and all this sort of thing. So I just, it's a wonderful thing, and it's only relatively new on YouTube, because in the old days people could troll day and night, and albeit you could delete the comments, but if the comments had been up like 5 or 6 hours, then lots of people had already seen them, and you tend to get weak-minded people who will follow, and they'll be thumbing up those comments in support, but they wouldn't dare say anything themselves, these varieties of cowards. But anyway, I put a lot of people in what I call the snake pit. Anyone that trolls me, anyone that talks shit, I just fucking put them in the snake pit. I just delete them from the channel. So that's a wonderful facility. And in the old days, can you imagine when the internet first became popular, and you've got YouTube and forums like that, and people could say what they wanted to say, and there's some very, very sick individuals out there, and they thrive on attempting to cause people trauma. So these people do need stopping, and just the mindless stupid hate needs stopping. But where do we draw the line? That's the thing, people. Where do we draw the line? Because, for instance, if you've got something to say against any of the religions, or any of the so-called varieties of human being these days, apparently there's a whole bunch of them. It's not just Homo sapiens, by the way, now. No. And if you've got anything to say about them, which is feasible, legitimate, then that's classified as hate speech, and it's absolutely not. What it is, mostly it's reasoned speech. It's logical speech. It's pointing out the obvious speech. That's what it is. But all of that they want to kill, suppress. And so how do we do it? Well, I heard the other day that instead of these big platforms now cancelling people, they don't cancel them. They allow them to have a platform, but they shadow ban them. They put the breakers on. So I was listening to David Icke, as I always do, and he was saying that his presence on X is seriously shadow banned, because in compared to other platforms, which there aren't many, because he's banned from most of them, he doesn't get the amount of views or the comments that he should. And then him and his son were speaking, davidicke.com, but if any of you don't know, they do videos together, and they were saying, well, if you stop calling out Elon Musk, then maybe he'll take the breakers off your posts. But David Icke calls out Elon Musk, and so look, here's the thing: you can't very well call anybody out on their own channel, and that's the thing, isn't it? You can call Elon Musk out all over YouTube, and YouTube won't penalise you for it. But if you call him out on his channel, or if you call Donald Trump out if he's got his channel, then they're not going to stand for it, are they? And some people could say, oh well, you've got to allow free speech and you've got to allow this. No, you don't have to. You don't have to. It's a bit like if you have a wedding or a party and you have idiots crashing the wedding or the party. Just because you're having a fucking wedding, you don't have to have passers-by. You don't have to offer your hospitality to passers-by, do you? No, you evict them. And so when you've got idiots on the channel, you evict them. And that's fair enough. So we need that facility. We need to suppress and marginalise the idiots. But we need also to allow people who are vocalising their own reasonable and rational opinions on any subject matter, because this is debate, this is discussion, this is arguments, and we need these things. But if we just label everything as hate speech, then nobody can say anything about these entities, and all of a sudden we create elephants in the room, don't we? The you-know-whos are an elephant in the room, because every time you mention a you-know-whom, oh, you're anti-Semitic. Oh, goodness me. It's the oldest trick in the book, and they've been doing it the longest, by the way. And then, of course, with Islam and, transgenders and anything like that. Very, very fragile entities. And, you have to ask yourself, well, if they are so fragile, what is it that they're so fragile about? That needs talking about. Why don't you come to the table and let's talk about how you feel so fragile? You know who's. Why do you feel so fragile about people denying the Holocaust? Is it because probably it never happened, or most certainly it didn't happen anything like that you proclaimed it did? And, all the rest of it. People, many years ago, when these videos were around, you could go online and you could see people, Jews, who actually travelled to Birkenau and to Auschwitz with a film crew, and they interviewed the staff around there, and they had a look around the whole place, and it just blew completely out of the water the feasibility of the 6 million you-know-who's being roasted for Sunday lunch. Just completely not feasible. And then even if you just look at the figures, the population of the diasporian Jews before the Second World War and after, well, there was only about 2 million difference, and these 2 million could have been killed in regular warfare. And so none of it worked out, people. But you've got the you-know-whos that have got this protection mechanism in place, and everyone will be cancelled if they speak about it. It's obscene and completely irrational. But as far as the hate speech thing goes, well, just mindless, stupid hate speech for the sake of it. Yes, well, we need to bring measures in, but we can't be penalising the whole world for a small minority. And so I suppose they'll work it out. But like I say, I think what they're starting to do now, instead of just cancelling everybody, they put the breakers on them. And it's like my channel. Google's policy, it doesn't tolerate bad language. Now, I use bad language in almost every one of my videos. And so they won't monetize them. They won't monetize them, and most certainly I'm shadow banned, because they're not putting videos out for the whole world to see when they go against their policy. So they're penalising me because I can't monetize my channel, and they're penalising me, the channel, and potential viewers by not allowing them to be viewed. And what it's saying to me is, well, if you want more viewers, more cover, then stop swearing in your videos, and then we'll, take the brakes off on the algorithm. And so I think, well, it's fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, at the end of the day, YouTube is a private channel. If it wasn't a private channel, if it was like a blockchain channel where there was no authority over it, then you'd get the free run, wouldn't you? But I suppose it would be like the dark web, where there's absolutely everything on there, and what the stuff you can see on there would disturb the most hardened of people. And so people do need protecting. There's a lot of shrinking violets out there, and lots of people used to say they like my channel, but they're not into the swearing, and I use some pretty coarse words, and so people are all spiritual or religious and all that. Well, they're not going to be getting too much juice out of my videos, because it's going to be rubbing against their spirit. But what do we do then? How do we make compromises? How do we prevent the idiot but give platforms for intelligent people? Well, I suppose to a degree that's happening, because people like Peterson and Harris and Dawkins and Murray, they can speak about it, but they just have to mind their P's and Q's. They just have to go down here, because field mushrooms must be out by now. Goodness me, it's mid-September and I haven't even seen one field mushroom. I suppose it's been very dry and it's warm, it's really warm now. And so the mushrooms, they're not coming up to get fried. They need it to be a whole lot more moist. But, okay, so that's the hate speech thing, I suppose it'll work itself out. It's like all things, the government come in with, over austere measures initially, then the general public have to fight back to gain a little bit of land, and then there's a compromise. So I suppose it's going to be compromised. But look, what's happening with the globalist people is that they've long decided that people, they're not fit to make their own decisions, because they're too fickle, too ill-informed, too egocentric, got too many biases and pet hates and all the rest of it. And so because of that, we're always pulling and pushing against each other, so we can't make much progress. Now, the powers that be, the way I see it, is that they're reckoning that, well, look, we'll marginalise what they can say, we'll take away the power that they've thought they had, or maybe they used to have, and we'll do all the thinking, and we'll implement all these laws and rules and regulations, and we'll get them complicit with what our agenda is, and then that way we can get along like a house on fire, because we'll have no obstruction. And if you look at it from a benevolent perspective, and you think, well, in theory, okay, that sounds all right, because there are a lot of idiots and different cultures, different religions, and every Tom, Dick and Harry, every shithead and fucking Aunt Sally, they're all going to be voting for this and voting fighting for that and pulling and pushing and just causing chaos. So if you just iron out all that bullshit, a bit like a communist or fascist regime, you just take away the so-called freedoms, because most of the freedoms just cause chaos and division at the end of the day. So that's what the liberalist, socialist left are all about. They're about taking away certain freedoms which cause chaos and division, and but the only thing is that they always go a step too far, because they get intoxicated with the power. And you've got idiots in Parliament just the same as you've got idiots down the pub. There's no difference, people. And so they make an equal amount of mistakes. And so if we can't trust our governments or Congress to make sensible decisions, who the fuck do we trust? Because they are just a bunch of blithering idiots. That's self-evident. So can we assume then that the greatest and most powerful and richest hidden hand in the world, or those puppets of the hidden hand like Soros and Gates and all those people, do we leave it to them? Do we leave it to Zuckerberg to allow us to listen to whatever they tell us to? But even Zuckerberg is kicking back now. At least it's supposed to have, because he came clean and he told the world that during COVID, Congress actually was manipulating him not to allow any anti-COVID stuff on Facebook. And he said, regrettably, he complied with it. And the reason why it's regrettably now, ladies and gentlemen, is because it's been proven to be completely fallacious. A whole lot of bollocks, a government propaganda exercise. That's all that thing was. And so, wise after the event, people get wise, and then they feel like they've been abused, and they realise that themselves and their family members and friends have been coerced into taking poisons and all this and that. And so he's thinking, well, I'm never going to allow them to do it again. And that's what he says. He's not going to allow them to do it again. And so, I suppose the alternative is then he gets whacked, isn't it? Because no one is above this hidden hand. No one. And if you've got a platform or position which is so powerful, like the social media platforms are these days, and if you are anti rhetoric, whatever the government is spieling out at that time, then you can very easily get whacked. So speaking of which, how easy is it to get whacked these days? For those of you that know what's going on in Lebanon of the past week or so, apparently, I don't know how much of this I can get away with on YouTube, but the Israeli Secret Service, you know who they are, begins with M, right? They had a hand in it, and what the actual hand was, that there were explosives placed into a whole bunch of pages. The Lebanese apparently are very partial to their pages, and so they put a program into the pager, and then when they'd all been sold and all been distributed, thousands of them, they set them off, so they blew up in people's faces and things like that. And so when the bleep went for the message, people reached into their pockets on their belt, looked at it and got their eyes blown out and the fingers blown off and all that sort of thing. So this is the government that's doing this, people. And so when, of course, Mossad is renowned for doing all this sort of stuff all over the world, being notorious for hunting down the Nazis in any country's jurisdiction, not listening to any country's jurisdiction. They would go there, they would kidnap, and the world wouldn't say anything about it. They'd always let Mossad do what Mossad wanted to do, and it seems they're still doing that. Now, why isn't the world all crying out that heads must roll when you've got this Secret Service, which in actual fact is a terrorist organisation, when you've got that doing such very, very surreptitious, dangerous and heinous crimes, is there no end? You see, they can very easily whack anybody by putting in explosive devices to mobile phones. But like Elon Musk was saying in a recent interview, these little drones they have these days, tiny little things like bugs, they can send them to assassinate leaders, anyone. They can get them to hone in on GPS, go within a few meters of them, fly in one of the windows and just blow them to smithereens. This is the bizarre world that we've entered into now. And it's very much like Minority Report, in that the profiles they are building on everybody, they are most certainly going to be earmarking people for potential dissidents or terrorists or whatever, and I'm pretty sure it won't be too long before we'll get the first arrests of thought crimes or crimes of the future, because of the information, the data that they've got. Everything is suggesting that it's highly probable, and so to protect the public, then they'll take you away. Oh wow, what the world's coming to. But you see, if the powers that be, the globalists, are acting benevolently, then okay, some of these measures might be acceptable. But we don't know that, do we? And they don't tell us that. They don't lay it all down. They don't say we're doing this because of that, and because of this, because of that, and in 50 years' time we're going to need to do this and need to do that. They don't tell us anything like that. So therefore, how can we trust them? We can't, can we? So we have to take it on face value that it's nefarious, and all they want to do is to make farmed creatures out of us, and then they can colour us and manipulate us and do whatever they want to at their will. I think most people would believe that's happening, and I can't see any reason really why not to believe that, because you just look at what's self-evident. And so yeah, a world completely controlled, as in George Orwell's 1984, as in The Island, that movie, as in A Brave New World, Aldous Huxley. What are you doing? Hey? You got your acorns? Little fellas? You see, you can watch squirrels all over the world, and they're all the same. They're aggro little fecks, always aggro about the mouthful of food. That's all their world revolves around. Food. Well, of course, it's a very, very powerful genetic thing. Survival. So, I was speaking to you guys a while ago about this wonderful tree. This is a Turkish oak, and you can tell from the leaves, because they're more pointy like this than lots of other oaks, particularly the English oak. And so this is the only Turkish oak I have ever found, and they have hairy, spiky acorns. This one, it seems like it's the first years. Or maybe they never made it, but some of these, that one's the first years, because they grow like that for the first year, and then the next year they'll come into fruit. So yeah. When we look into things, people, it doesn't matter what we look into, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, and more unfathomable. And in the end, you just go, well, look, there's no one person that can understand this stuff. and there's no one government that can understand. And I've listened to thousands and thousands of intellectuals, and they can only ever very loosely speculate about this and speculate about that, because there's too many variables. There's too much information for one human being to know. But who's going to be able to know all this stuff? The quantum computers are. The quantum computers are going to be able to know everything, and very precisely so. And they're going to see all the variables, they're going to see all the fluctuations, they're going to see all the potentials, they're going to be able to look across the whole of the human race and see it with such clarity. Can you imagine? So I was thinking yesterday at some stage that the individual, in any shape or form, doesn't matter what species, is almost completely insignificant. They're only significant in that they are a cell of a species. We're all cells. It's like grains of sand on a beach. Together they make up the beach, but individually insignificant, right? But they're not that insignificant that you can keep taking them away, because if you take them away one insignificant grain of sand at a time, then before long there will be no beach, you see. So they are important in that respect. So human beings, of course, are important to the species, just like oak trees are important to the species, but none of us are significant in any meaningful way outside of the collective. And when you look at what's going on this world, there's something that's going on which may have an agenda. It may just be fluctuating energies which just drift around and move over in this direction or that direction, and they're ever shifting varieties of energies, just like the weather around the world, just shifting their course and intensity all the time. To what avail? Is there any rhyme or reason to it? Are we going anywhere significant? Are we going anywhere that we're supposed to be going? Or is it just happening? I think it's just happening, and to be fair, I don't think anyone really knows, what's going on or what really they should be doing, because they don't know how the world's going to be. They don't know how the weather's going to be. They're just speculating about global warming, about this, that and the other. This earth could change in an absolute instant. We could have a coronal mass ejection which could all of a sudden mess with the Earth's ionosphere and the electromagnetism around the globe, and it could do any number of things which would completely just wipe out whatever we're doing for hundreds of years. And so I suppose at the end of the day, people, we grab a popcorn, because if you just get too involved in what they're doing to us, if you're an avid follower of Alex Jones, and if you listen all the time to these people that are telling you about what they're doing and what these are doing, oh goodness me, people are doing something all over the world. And whoever you care to look at are just an absolute fraction of what there is out there to look at. So don't be beguiled and deceived into thinking that you know a little bit of what's going on. Nobody knows what's going on. Really, nobody knows what's going on. And so what can we do? Just keep it varied. Be versatile. Okay, have a little bit of look, like I do, a little bit of look at David Icke and Alex Jones now and again, and Russell Brand, and all the rest of them. But then do other stuff, and keep it mixed, and don't take any of it too seriously.